All your favorite wrestling shows rolled into one. Welcome to the We Book It podcast. Let's start the show.
Yo, what's going on, everybody? Welcome into another episode of the We Book It podcast. This is your review for your Who's Next in NXT. Guys, I appreciate each and every last one of you for tuning in to these episodes. I hope you guys are enjoying the content we are putting out here on the We Book It network. Just make sure that you guys go ahead and like, share, and subscribe. I'm your host, the world booking champion, Virgil, here to talk about Who's Next in NXT. So in this episode, the August 26th episode of NXT, guys, we are fresh off of the Heatwave PLE, and a few things have changed in NXT since Saturday. Dark State is now the new tag team champions. JC Jane is no longer the TNA Knockouts champion, and Lola Vice is the new number one contender for JC Jane's NXT Women's Championship. So this show is going to be dealing with the fallout from that. And then also we're going to begin the build to No Mercy on September 27th. So NXT opened up this week with a recap of Heatwave before Ricky Saints came out to kick off the show with a promo. He talked about being successful at Heatwave, but was quickly interrupted by none other than Josh Briggs, who was still bragging about beating Yoshiki Inamura. Before things could devolve into a fight, Ava came out and announced that Briggs would face Saints later in the show for a shot at the NXT Championship. We also got a brief backstage segment to set up the first match between Blake Monroe and Kaylani Jordynne. There wasn't much in this segment, but it was short and effective. One of the biggest moments, obviously, was Ricky Saints has a lot of charisma to him, especially when he is on the microphone. And he had a hilarious segment, and the crowd popped large for this when he said that Josh Briggs came out looking like Sid from Toy Story. The crowd popped big for that one. They liked that one a lot. So I laughed. I chuckled at that one too. That was a pretty good one-liner that he hit him with. All right, next up, we go from there, and we have Kaylani Jordynne versus Blake Monroe. So the match we saw booked between Jordynne and Monroe, Blake Monroe and Kaylani Jordynne and Blake Monroe. I don't know why I'm tripping, y'all. Between them during a segment from Heatwave got going after the commercial break. So Monroe scored the first takedown and took control. She began focusing on Jordynne's left shoulder with most of her offense. Halfway through the match, Jordynne Grace showed up, and Monroe tried to leave like she did a few weeks ago, but she found the door was locked. Grace made her get back in the ring so she could finish her match. Jordynne took advantage and hit a split leg moonsault for the pin and the win. This was a pretty short match, but again, you already knew Blake Monroe and Jordynne Grace weren't finished with their feud yet, so you understood that this is going to take hold, and they're going to have a pretty long feud between these two. Next up, we have Miles Bourne versus Lexis King. It was a blindfold match between these two. Listen, blindfold matches in wrestling have never went well. This came about when King sprayed Bourne with pepper spray during a recent backstage encounter. Both men had trouble finding each other for the first minute, but once they made contact, they locked up and started struggling around the ring together. Bourne had a nice drop kick, and King ended up sending himself out of the ring by flying through the ropes. He also injured his hand chopping the ring post when he thought it was Bourne. Again, this match was designed and purely made for comedic purposes. And it shouldn't have worked in most cases, but it actually did work between these two. They made this look really entertaining. King was especially good at the comedy spots meant to make him look foolish. Alexis King ended up cheating and removing his mask while the ref was blinded, which allowed him to hit his finisher for the win. So like I said, it was just another way for King to get some heat. Obviously, Miles Bourne is the babyface in this picture. Next up, we have Kendall Gray and Ren Sinclair versus Tatum Paxley and Izzy Dame. Charlie Dempsey, Nico Vance, and Sean Spears were at ringside to watch the women's tag team match with Ren Sinclair and Kendall Gray taking on Tatum Paxley and Izzy Dame. Dame planted Gray in the corner right out of the gate, but Sinclair came in and helped her with a quick double team sequence. Both teams got in lots of offense because the pace was so quick, and nobody ever in the match took control for long. It made the match feel competitive while still being easy to follow and keep along with. Unfortunately, it ended abruptly when Dame hit a pop-up power bomb to pin Sinclair. So the Culling defeated Sinclair and Gray. There was also a brief backstage segment before the show where Charlie Dempsey telling Sinclair that Gray would be a partner. David Paxley being a colorful gear was a nice change and pace from the Culling, who typically wear all black. So yeah, that was that moment there. Then next we had Josh Briggs versus Ricky Saints. Briggs and Saints were already in the ring when we returned from break. The match got started immediately, and both men started throwing hands. They did not take long to make this a physical matchup. They eventually took the fight out of the ring, where Briggs was sent flying to the ring post. We returned from break to see Briggs in the driver's seat. He took Saints down for a near fall and started to look frustrated. Saints ducked a flying clothesline as he began his comeback. This was a decent match between two guys who were very different, both in style and presentation. You remember Briggs is a big man who was quick on his feet, so he was able to keep up with the fast pace of the match. Both men had a few close calls, but a spinning DDT from Saints put Briggs down for the 3 count. We now know who Obafemi's next challenger is for No Mercy. It is none other than Ricky Saints. WWE has been protecting Obafemi for some time now. Obviously, Shawn Michaels believe he's the cash cow of NXT for right now. But I think that giving Ricky Saints the win over Obafemi would be a great call. But you want to save it for a special big pay-per-view, though. Like Ricky Saints, you're going to build up. Make no mistake about it. NXT is going to be built around Ricky Saints. He is the guy of the future for NXT. Like I don't think there's any doubt in anybody's mind whose show this is going to be. It's going to be Ricky Saints' show. So, but again, you have to have build up challengers for him. I think that was the one thing with Obafemi. Like he didn't have a lot of challenges. You saw a lot of repeat matches. Obviously, him and Trick. Obviously, him and Javon have been all going at each other and everything like that. But Ricky Saints should be the one to dethrone him, and you should crown Ricky Saints the crown jewel of NXT because Obafemi probably will be heading up to the main roster. It would not shock me to see him in the Royal Rumble in January. So we'll have to see what happens with that. Next up, we have Alba Fire versus Tara May Steele. Femi came out and had a segment with Saints in the ring after Saints' match. The new number one contender promised to end the champ's reign of terror. Then Dark State showed up in the crowd and began insulting both of them. Looks like we know who Femi and Saints will face in a tag team match before they fight each other next month. Heck, and Tank came out to even the odds. The segment ended with the baby faces sending the heels packing. And then next up was the singles match between Alba Fire and Tyra May Steele. Fire taunted Steele a bit at first, but the gold medalist made her regret it once she started throwing her around the ring with suplexes. Once Fire regained control, she tried to keep Steele grounded with little success. Steele was able to pull out the victory before Chelsea Green attacked her from behind. Tavion Heights confronted her, but Ethan Page attacked him. This again was another short match. I like the fact Shawn Michaels made a lot of these matches short, but it was good for Steele to get the win on her record after suffering the loss on Sunday. So it does look like a couple of notes from the show. It does look like the NXT has gotten rid of the Heritage Cup. I've never been a fan of cups in wrestling. I ain't even like it when Brock Lesnar won the King of the Ring, and instead of them putting a crown on him, they gave him a trophy, actual trophy. Him and Edge both used a trophy instead. I've never really appreciated that or liked that. I always thought that if you're going to make it the King of the Ring, keep it the crown. Obviously, guys, like I said, the biggest and best thing going in NXT right now has to be has to be Chelsea Green and Ethan Page, all ego. Though those two together right now are just phenomenal television to watch. So if you have not watched them, you definitely need to. So last match of the night, Lola Vice, Zarya, and Sol Ruka versus Fatal Influence. Now, don't forget, the WWE Speed Championships are actually coming to NXT to be defended. So those titles will debut on the show. So right now, Sol Ruka is a double champion, holding both the women's North American Championship as well as the women's Speed title. So she does have both of those belts. Sol Ruka and Fallon Henley started off this 6-woman tag match, and they were having a nice exchange until Henley lost her balance on the ropes. Zarya and Jasmine Nix took over, and the powerhouse took control for her team. She brought in Vice and slammed her on top of Nix for a 2 count. Neither team seemed to have a clear advantage over the other, so they traded the upper hand many times between tags. This was a solid match, but it might not have been the right choice to end the show. Again, I thought this was weird too. I almost would have rather you flipped these matches and done this match and first, and then done the Alba Fire versus Terra May Steel match. But again, everybody worked hard in the match. Vice, Ruka, and Zarya defeated Fatal Influence. Zarya held Nix in the air for quite some time when she was doing the hanging sleeper hold on her. And yeah, like I said, Laney Reed showed up to watch the match from the crowd. So, and has been your NXT Who's Next with NXT recap show. What did you guys think of the show? I honestly thought that either you could have ended the show with Ricky Saints versus Josh Briggs for the main event, or Alba Fire versus Tyra May Steel. So either one of those I think would have been the better choice for main event. But like I said, I didn't book the show. Had I booked it, I probably would have done that. So, but I have nothing else for you guys. I appreciate you guys so much for tuning in to this episode. Again, until next time, I appreciate each and every one of you. Keep those booking pencils sharp and keep on booking.